Hello.
Hello. We started live streaming.
Okay. Jeanette, I'm just going to try and put the presentation for later up on screen just to practice it, if that's all right.
Okay.
Hi, Jeanette.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
There's Alia's here. James. Wow. Hi, James.
Hi. Hello, hi.
Yeah. Richard. Is Mohammed Raja sat in a Florida apartment somewhere? I'm not really sure, you know what I mean? Is he trying to tease us with something here, you know? So we're all sat here in, you know, our sort of grummy offices, and he's sat in his, you know, I think it's a Florida villa or something. I'm not really sure. Andrew, we've got everything under control. I've just seen the email Jeanette sent to everybody. So if there is anything, then we will.
Taj, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Good. It works.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Dave is here now.
Dad, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, Masood. I'm fine.
Lovely. I can see you.
Yeah. We were actually admiring your picture in your Florida villa or somewhere. Because,
Oh, you know, that's, I won't go as far as saying flogged in twice in case you're going to show any document.
Yeah.
Quite a lot to not see. No, that picture was taken in Tampa in Florida.
I was near enough there.
You weren't far off. It was a lovely sunny day, needless to say.
Yeah. Myself, Jeanette, and Andrew were actually, you know what I mean, getting jealous, right? That you were sat somewhere sunny and we were sat in the cold.
I wish it were.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Alan. Hi.
Hi, Alan.
Hiya. Raj, I thought you were on the bottom picture.
I'm on bottom and top. I'm on two.
Yeah. Okay. Pete is here. Pete's here.
Is indeed.
Okay. Graham is here. So Guys, we just decided that we would give people, a few minutes because the last time that we had this meeting, there was a lot of people that were finding it difficult to log on. So we're just gonna, give them a few minutes. So we may have to just start about 5 past or something like that.
No problem.
Bear with us, yeah. Okay, I can see Graham Peacock is logged on now, and Avril Kelly. Oh, Andrew, I thought you changed your name.
No, sorry about that. My other half usually uses it for
All
social.
right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Can I just test my sound? Is it working, please?
Yeah, Graham.
Yeah,
Houston can hear you clear, sounding
Thank
clear.
you. That's fine.
If you just get my, just go around the back and unplug. Oh, that's right, I'll do it from here. I actually plugged in. Yeah. Oh, it's louder though. Yeah, I do that. I've got maps on where you're talking. I don't need to leave from doing.
I can see John's logged on and he's sat comfortable in his armchair. But he's on his iPhone, so I'm not really sure whether he can hear us or we can hear
I
him.
can hear you. I can hear you.
I can't hear him. Can everybody else hear him?
I can hear him.
yeah.
Oh, you should have shook your head and said, no, we can't hear him.
Oh,
No,
you
no.
couldn't do that with John. A meeting wouldn't be a meeting without John
Without
present,
John,
would it,
yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
John? You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to drink when you're on meetings, Chair.
John is just water.
I believe you.
I haven't had the chance to have having a sandwich or anything. I've been in another meeting for Unite, and that just I had to come off it to log on to this one. So I haven't had a chance to have anything to eat. So go easy on me, John, today.
Jeanette, was there a representative of Arriva coming on the call? Or is there someone on the call?
I can't see anyone on the call as yet.
Okay.
There should be one coming on the call.
Usually it's
Mark Fennick, is it?
Mark Fennick. Usually it's Mark Fennick that actually fills in. So
Here comes Dwayne.
Dwayne. Dwayne's logged on now, so we've got that. Jeanette, we have got apologies from Michael.
Yes, I've got those.
Yeah.
And also from Alex Hornby.
Okay. Yeah. It's just that Michael did send me it, so he copied
Yeah,
me.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just add, we've got apologies from some of our team: Colin Brushwood, Will Pearson, and Brandon Jones.
Thank you.
They're all on other meetings at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Richard, can you hear us now? You seem to have lost Richard. He was on, but he's off. I'm not really sure. I think it may have been having a problem with his sound. So we'll just wait a few moments for them, and then we'll kick off. Okay, right. It's 2:05 now, and I think the number of people that constantly and religiously sort of attend these meetings most of them are here. If there are others, I did have Richard, but he's for some reason he's gone off or he's disconnected. I'm not really sure. Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for logging on. Thank you for giving up your afternoon, but. And in these unprecedented times, these are the only platforms that are available for us to actually have the conversation. And it's important that we actually keep in touch to make sure that, we are dealing with stuff. It would have been lovely to actually all see you all in person. But the restrictions are such that we cannot have any of those meetings at this moment of time. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the open forum. Jeanette, have we got any questions, anything that anybody's put in or anybody wish to ask before we start the meeting?
I haven't had any questions through to me.
Okay.
Has there been anything to you, Andrew?
Yeah, the only one, and I noticed Mr. Peacock's got his hand up, and it was just in relation to that one, Jeanette, that you forwarded to me a few days ago. So I don't know whether Councillor Salam, whether Graham Peacock wants to sort of say something on this particular subject.
Well,
Graham?
thank you. Very seeing some emails that I did send into the corporate services, governance services, to which I haven't had a reply, regrettably. They were on the 23rd of September, I sent one in, and then a second one reminding about that, but also bringing up the second issue. They're both really to do with the availability of timetables on bus posts and at bus stations, and also the availability of portable timetables, pocket timetables, and the question of whether, in fact, the virus can be spread or not. And I put in a couple of references about recent suggestions that they're not as hazardous as they might be through paper. So I think if we could put that on the table for the office end to deal with those and perhaps put in a response, I would be happy to do that.
Andrew, do you want to come on that?
Yep, by all means, absolutely. So I think just to give you an update on that, Mr. Peacock, I appreciate it's been difficult times for all concerned, but also specifically on the point of bus information, and whether we could have done better in this time is a sort of slightly moot point. The important thing for me now is that we make things better as much as we can and as quickly as we can. Just to be clear, the rationale for suspending the issuance of handout paper timetables or indeed the roadside displays was not due to fear of transmission of COVID particularly, although potentially that's a valid point. I'm not close enough to the science on that score, but it was more because of the rapid change of service, the rapid number of service changes over such a short period of time. So where are we now? Where we're at now is that in the coming weeks, next couple of weeks, and certainly in the case of the paper timetable, it will be handouts, it will be next week. We will have 3,000 roadside displays. That's the timetables that are at bus stops issued within the next 2 weeks. They will be installed at Bradford Interchange, Keighley Bus Station, Shipley Market Square and Ilkley Bus Station, and then also at the busiest bus stops in Bradford City Centre and the other town centres. If you would like to have an individual list of the stops that we're getting those up in the first instance, Mr. Peacock, I'm more than happy to provide that to you. I can get that to you by tomorrow. Yeah. In terms of the handout timetables, what we're doing again is we're trying to prioritise. So we are prioritising those services that people are asking us about the most. So there's a certain logic there. So in the first instance, we're pushing out the handout timetables for those services that people are asking about the most, and then we'll move on to the other services, because you appreciate we're starting from scratch again, so we've got to have some order to this. In terms of the sort of wider rollout of roadside displays, timetable displays at bus stops, we will work on that next tranche, probably another 3,000 to 4,000 stops, and we will carry on in a kind of on an as used basis, so that for the busiest stops we will have them in sooner than some of the quieter, less used stops. So I hope that makes sense, but do come back to me if you have any further comments or queries.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the main point is that we must bear in mind that there's a slice of the population that has no pocket phone at all, and there may be a slice that has a pocket phone that is definitely not a smartphone, and to that extent those people are really disenfranchised from getting information, short of ringing in the helpline.
I think so we note that.
If you're working on that, I think that is good news, and I shall pass that back to the people who've raised it locally, and we'll look out to see the improvements as you are able to manage it with staff and everything else.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else? John?
Yeah, just, excuse me, Chair. Just following up on the...
Richard Isaac.
You are in the meeting now. There are 17
Richard Isaac.
Join the meeting. The waiting room. You cannot talk or listen until the host admits you to the meeting.
Can you hear me?
Just John, just yeah, Richard is just joined the meeting with his audio, John. He couldn't hear us, we couldn't hear him, so he's just joined. Right, carry on, John. Richard, you're in.
Your way of shutting up, yeah. So following on from what, in fact, the point one of the point that one of the points Graham mentioned, asked us about the bus stop notices, was one I was going to bring up in another item on the agenda. I think it's important because, especially on busy bus routes or any bus route really, to have it up. I appreciate at the moment with the times of buses changing every so often, that it's going to be very hard. But it is important that we get some sort of notification on the bus stops, because I know on my local bus stops it says it gives me a metro number to ring, or go on me pads, go on me iPhone to get it. But by the time I've done that, the bus has come.
Yeah.
It says we can have it, because the number of times when I've been out on the afternoon walk along Bradford Road, seeing people standing at the bus stop, haven't got a clue when the bus is coming. And I have to tell them the 662 comes on an average every 10 minutes. Oh, does it, they say. And there's been the general comment I've had from people, can we have bus the bus times back on? But I appreciate in the present situation, it's going to be very hard. Okay, I've said enough now.
Yeah, I mean, just as Andrew said to Graham, John, is that within the next 2 weeks, you know, I mean, you will see most of the timetables in bus stations and on the busiest bus stops and around the town centres all updated. So just like Graham, Andrew has promised Graham, if he wishes to have those timetable list, he can send them to Graham. And if you wish to have that, we can also include you that into it. Is that all right?
Yes, okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anybody else? I can't see. No. Right. Okay. Thanks for that. Any declaration of interest I should note here, other than that already those that are already recorded? Okay. Under item 4, I can't see anything where we would exempt the members of public or the press. So we go straight on to the minutes of the meeting held on 21st of October. Is there any matters arising from page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? Page 5?
Taj,
Yeah, Sinead?
I can barely hear you. I've got my phone volume set to full. Is there anything anybody else can do to raise the volume?
Sorry. I mean, my volume is on the highest. Is everybody else all right in hearing me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, Sinead, if it's your phone.
Maybe it's because I'm on my phone, but I couldn't get on the laptop. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'll turn my video off and keep the phone to my ear.
I was going to suggest that, but you know what I mean? I thought, okay, thanks for that, Sinead. Okay. So we're still on 21st of October, page 7. Page 8. And page 9. Okay, so we accept the minutes of that meeting. Then we've got the 17th of July. Sorry, I should have taken these first. My apologies. So this is the 17th of July 2020 meeting. Anything from page 1? Well, it's page 11 on this one. Page 12, because they just carry on from the last ones. 13 and 14. No, right. Okay. Thanks for that. Okay. So can I just say, if you wish to speak, you can either use the chat box to indicate, and we'll monitor the chat box, or you can just raise your hand if you got your video on. If you wish to keep your video on, by all means. If you don't, that's entirely your decision. But if you can actually mute your microphones if you're not speaking, because sometimes it does actually give a background noise and while other people are speaking. So the chair's update. What can I say? To be honest with you, you know, this is very difficult times, but we all have to actually carry on in our jobs. I hope that, you know, I mean, the rising number of cases that we are actually seeing across Bradford and other districts, I hope we can contain them. But from my point of view, you know, when we went into the full lockdown, the bus services across the district actually were only running about 5%. We were only carrying about 5% of the passengers. Just recently now, you know, people are actually coming back from furlough, and that scheme is actually coming to nearer to the end. And we are running at about 60% of the buses in the West Yorkshire region. We get into about, 90% of the bus services in the West Yorkshire region. And also we are actually carrying around 50 to 60% of the passengers. The traffic volumes are still up and increasing. When, I mean, the traffic just sort of spiraled when schools went back. School services are running normal. We're carrying the full capacity on school services. With the trains, I'm getting reports that we are actually, you know, running services, but not having the same number of passengers that we would actually wish for. I think it's the confidence that we need to give back to the members of public. Also, on the active travel, we've had a number of main arteries. I mean, I'm talking about Bradford at this moment in time. The main arteries have actually been marked with bus, cycle lanes and walking lanes. We've had some criticism from some quarters that we are taking up most of the busy corridors and especially a full bus, full lane. However, you know, the defense is that we have to actually make safe areas for people to actually cycle and walk in. If we were to actually let other vehicles use that those lanes, then, you know, it would not be deemed as safe, which we found in London when they made the bus and the cycle lane into one. There were a number of casualties and serious accidents. So those, you know, I mean, that's been done in Bradford. Those had to be completed by end of October. Those were the, that was the funding agreement. James, I'll bring you in, and Sinead, I will bring you in. I've got you both. There was also, Combined Authority was awarded a single payment of 1.086 million revenue funding to support bus services. And there were a number of things that we wanted to do in Bradford and across the West Yorkshire. But COVID then came and some of those are actually being put on the back burner. The only three that have actually been done up to date now is the Keighley to Halifax via Denham. That service has actually been put in. New links for Leeds, for East Leeds and 5 towns to employment in Sherburn, in Elmet. That's been done. And also Barnsley and Doncaster from South East Wakefield linked, that's been done. The rest of the money has actually been put in a contingency plan pot for us to actually use on some which the DFT have actually agreed to. Other than that, there is a paper that Andrew will talk to. But for me, though, you know, those were the couple of things that I just wanted to bring to your attention. James, can I bring you in first?
Yes, thank you. For the record, a small group of us from Bradford Cycling Campaign and Capital of Cycling went on a little tour of the new cycle facilities recently. And on the whole, we're very impressed, particularly the Wakefield Road scheme. We're very pleased that the whole lane has been set aside for us. There are one or two issues with Manchester Road and Ruley Lanes are somewhat bitty, but on the whole, we do welcome that. So I just thought if someone could just put that on record. Would you like me to send a copy of the document? Maybe attach the minutes or something like that?
Yeah, if you wish, yeah.
Yes, it's just a report in PDF, which people might find interesting.
Okay.
Thanks.
You can copy that to Andrew and myself, and then or Jeanette.
Yes, sure.
Then we will actually touch it.
Thank you.
Jeanette?
Thanks.
Hi, thanks. A couple of things really. One being the ongoing issue regarding capacity on school buses. My 12-year-old daughter, who's in year 7, frequently has to stand by the road for an hour at a time because of the place her school is on the bus route, because the buses are already full. But actually listening to the previous commenter regarding cycling, on Friday just gone, I cycled from my home to the school run, my local primary school, and then down to my local community centre, because I was taking my 19-year-old daughter's bike down to her university in Huddersfield. The plan was I would cycle down to Bradford interchange and then bring the bike down to her via train. I cycled round Ollerton, but when it got to the stretch from Ollerton down Thornton Road, I was too scared to ride the bike because of the behaviour of drivers. I ended up walking the bike from Lower Grange all the way down to the interchange because of the behaviour of drivers. So cycling really needs a bigger community effort. Now, I lived in Cambridge for 12 years. I did my school run by bike because the buses were too expensive, but it's flat there and everybody has bikes. My eldest daughter, who is now 19, was born in Cambridge, and we didn't return to Bradford until she was 2.5. I remember cycling around Cambridge with her on the back in a child seat, with panniers full of shopping, a basket full of shopping, bags hung on each handlebar, but it felt safe there because the drivers in Cambridge expect cyclists. Here in Bradford, despite my 12-year experience down there in a very, very cycle-oriented city, I was terrified. I was too scared to ride on the road, so I walked down the path with the bike. And I don't think that is entirely about me. I think that is a parent being cautious, but responding to the environment I'm in. But I'll go back to my first point. The bus situation for school children is horrendous. There must be enough algorithms in place to know the hotspots. It's not down to some woman with a bit of chalk and a chalkboard to work out the busy routes and what we need to do about it. We've got all these computer programs. Why can't the bus companies prioritise certain routes at certain points of the day. And I'm not just talking about school runs, I'm talking about historically when I've got on a bus at about 8 p.m. from Ollerton going into town. It's only half a bus, a single decker. We've got to the BRI and there's 30 people just coming off a 12 plus hour shift wanting to get on that bus, and they all have to stand and they're crammed in like sardines. What are we doing to make sure that First Bus use the information that we all give them as passengers to provide appropriate services?
Okay, thanks for that, Sinead. Where's Raja? Raja, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, no problem at all. What we have got is that we're using what we call a bus capacity on the ticket machine. So whereas we can see when people have got on, so as soon as a person gets onto that vehicle, the driver will issue the ticket or press the button, it will count the people on. Once the bus becomes full, we have what's called a bus capacity report that comes out. So if we're seeing that the driver has got the tickets that are full for that particular journey, what we'll have a look at then is to see, right, do we need to put on a double deck vehicle? So would that suffice from that? Obviously, we do have the vehicles that. Sorry.
I'm going to butt in. I'm going to be a git, right? Until you have actually personally sat on, say, a 617 or a 618 that comes up through Ollerton Estate and then comes back down and picks up 20, 30, 40, however many Dixon's Ollerton kids, you can't understand the position the driver is in when these people are not cooperative, shall we say.
Mm-hmm. And that I understand exactly what you're saying, but what we would ask then, if there is a specific problem on a specific route with a driver, we would always ask him to report that so that we can see what's going on. Without the driver's report or a customer who's having problems on the bus, then we would obviously not be aware of it other than from the bus being capacity full. So obviously,
right, so I've got a second question now then.
Ned,
and this is half a question to Taj as a driver, and I have other friends who are drivers who talk to me as well, so he's not my only source of information. So what protection then is there for a driver who challenges people? They're on their own. They literally are on their own. And I've had a number of occasions in the last 5-10 years where I have challenged people on the bus as a customer, and I've not had the backup of the driver, and I will never blame the driver for that because I'm not doing their job. I can get off that bus and walk away. They're sitting on there for the duration. It really, really does scare me. I should maybe declare an interest here. One of my children was subject to a sexual assault on a bus, and it took about 6 weeks for the police to acquire the CCTV footage from the bus. And that as a lifelong trade unionist and as a lifelong passenger, I've never even had a driving lesson. That worries me. Where is the protection for the drivers and the passengers in this system?
Okay, Sinead, can I just ask you now to bear with those, right? Let Raja finish, and I mean, I'll come in also if I need to.
Okay, going back to the last point that you made, I'm not sure why it would have taken 6 weeks. Clearly, we have a policy in place that if something's happened on a bus, once we've got the report from either the victim or from the police, that CCTV would be downloaded straight away. I can't comment as to why it would take 6 weeks. What we do find sometimes is that police officers are not at work and they're specifically dealing with it. I don't know how far back you're going, but one of the other problems that we did see, but only for a short period of time, is that we've moved from what we call the CD disc, and now we've gone to it on an electronic basis. And some police officers who are requesting CCTV are finding that the switchover is a little bit more difficult for them to understand. So we've been working with West Yorkshire Police's supervision to try and educate the police officers themselves who need to then request CCTV. And I've helped a couple of police officers if they've got in touch with me. I didn't write down the second point. What was the second point, Sinead? Sorry. Or the cab protection. So what we have a clear policy for our drivers that drivers must not leave the cab. That cab is there for their protection. What we would do then is that the cab door is securely bolted for that specific driver. So if he wants to lock it, he can do. Some will, some won't. We do have the CCTV in operation for that. We would ask the driver, as happened in many cases that I'm aware of, if something is happening on the bus, the drivers know that they can call 999, or if they've not got a telephone, which obviously most drivers do, they would then contact our ACES control and request assistance from them. And again, our ACES supervisors would call 999.
Yeah, just to
You know, we've been involved in well, some of us, myself and Taj, have been involved in campaigns to retain guards on trains. Particularly in COVID times, where we've all seen reports of supermarket workers being assaulted because they've requested people to adhere to personal safety rules. Is there any possibility that we can get some support for bus workers in that regard? Because, like I said, I'm a pedestrian stroke bus passenger every day. Day before yesterday, I was on the bus upstairs with my 8-year-old son who has ADHD and is not very aware. There were people at the back of the bus throwing litter out the window, which upset my son, and he started loudly saying, "Oh, that's wrong, we need the police." And I'm there just trying to quieten him down. Yeah, that shouldn't have been happening. In an ideal world, the bus driver would have stopped the bus, we would have summoned help, and those people who were breaking the law would have been dealt with. But we're not in an ideal world. I worry about this. I worry about drivers being left on their own and angry passengers like myself when we see people who are not wearing their masks, and I've still got my thing around my neck now because I've got a school run to do in a few minutes. What more can we do to support our drivers and protect our drivers in this current climate?
Okay, Sinead, I think I've given you enough airtime. So, I mean, I've got Mr. Raja, you are there. Dwayne is here, and Alan and Alan is here. So, if you guys want to, if any of you want to respond to that, you are more than welcome. But just to let you know, Sinead, I mean, I'm talking about, you know, Bradford buses. There is a lot of protection in there. If a driver is having a difficulty, there is also an emergency button that they can hit, which is just a one tap, and that overrides everybody else. And our control room can actually hear what if there is anything, you know, happening on that bus, or if the driver needs to actually report something. CCTV, like Raja said, that's also there. You know, people can actually ring 999. They can stop the bus and ask for assistance. So there are a number of things that are actually in place to protect the driver. But like Raja said, drivers are not allowed to come out their cab. The cab door is locked from the inside, so passengers can't open it from the outside. But you will always find some instances where people are actually, you know what I mean, trying to assault the driver or throw some liquid on them or whatever. We've had a number of incidents. I'm surprised that, you know what I mean, you couldn't get the CCTV, because the CCTV is downloaded there and then that same day. It's for the protection of the driver, protection of the passengers. and also to identify incidents. But if you want to have a further chat with myself, Sinead, I'm more than happy to do that with you. Okay, thanks for that. Anybody else? John?
Yeah, Chair, you mentioned about new cycle lanes.
Yeah.
And there's a comment I've got. No, I welcome the new cycle lanes, but also we have an existing cycle lane on the road, on Bradford Road at the bottom of my avenue, which goes all the way. I think it goes from Riddles and right the way through to Cross Flats. But the number of times when I'm out walking in the afternoon, and this isn't only now, it's been over the last few months, is that cyclists cycle on the path, cycle on the wrong side of the road anyway on the path, so take no notice of the pedestrians, and one of these days, one of these cyclists is going to get off the bike and hit me with the comments I make about them. But seriously, on any new bus route, new cycle lanes and existing cycle lanes, can we make sure that that cyclists, and I say this as somebody when I was younger, cycled all the way from Rugby up to the Lake District, so I do know a bit about cycling. But can we give instructions that cyclists do not cycle on the footpaths?
Okay, John. Yeah, we'll take that on board, and we'll actually. I mean, James is here, and he can actually take a note on that, and wherever we can, we will actually make people aware of that. You know, through some of the programs that we hold or some of the rides that we hold, we can always actually talk to people. Thanks for that, John. Anybody else? No? Okay. I mean, just to the last thing that I just wanted to report was I think you guys will be aware that Yorkshire Tiger gave notice of early termination of their contract in the Shipley Bradford area. They lost the airport route, and then they gave notice that those services have actually now been given to TLC, and Transdev are actually doing the airport service. So that's the change that occurred in the Shipley area. Okay, that's my that's item 7, and that's end of my report. So Andrew, information report.
Yeah, I think that you've covered a lot of it, Taj, but there's just 2 or 3 things that I would add on to that. Generally speaking, I think it's fair to say that until the last couple of days, when obviously things could have changed again due to the ongoing and unfolding COVID issues, bus patronage is now at about 50% compared to what we'd normally expect to see at this time of year. We're just experiencing some issues in the Bradford area with bus punctuality, bus reliability, as a result of the 4-way traffic lights that have been installed at the Green Gates junction, causing circa 20-minute delays to bus services at present. That's likely to continue from now until after Christmas, but we are assured and are confident actually that the result at the end of the day will be much better for bus passengers and bus services. So pain before gain, as it were. We've talked about the reinstatement of a service between Keighley and Halifax for people interested from the Keighley area. So every 60 minutes, Monday to Saturday, we now have a service there that's been reinstated, the 502 that was missing for some time. I've talked about the timetables and getting them out. And I think the other thing to say, and operators will probably pick up on this in more detail, is just that operators are still reviewing their services to ensure that they are able to prioritize in such a way that the resource meets the demand. Now, I appreciate that may miss the mark on occasion, but it is a rapidly changing environment. So they're doing their best to try and meet that demand. Just one quick comment on the sustainable transport piece. So we are yet to hear whether we've got, I'm just busily pulling up the piece of information that I've been sent through today. We are awaiting feedback on the active travel funding. Tranche 2, we received some money as the combined authority for tranche 1, which has been used, and we've described some of the ways in which that has been used already. We thought we were going to receive feedback, and the information report says by the end of August. That obviously hasn't happened yet. We're now in October, but we have had a letter from Grant Shapps, the Secretary of State for Transport, last week, telling us that news should be imminent as to what level of funding we are likely to receive. So I think that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay. Are there any questions to Andrew? Yeah. Andy?
Sorry, get myself off mute. Can I ask about what's happening with the Leeds Clean Air Zone? I understand Leeds Council have backed off introducing the zone now on the basis of all the vehicles that need to be converted have been converted, so there's not a problem anymore. But would there be any likelihood of the bus operators now thinking, well, if there's no requirement, can they sort of reverse cascade the buses out? And if there are clean zones introduced elsewhere, you might end up with dirty buses back in Leeds. And likewise with the Bradford bus clean air zone.
That's a really difficult one. I'm not close enough to the politics to know exactly the reason why that decision was taken, but obviously in Leeds they feel that they have a level of confidence that the traffic levels are not going to return to where they were previously. And we'll come on when I talk about the carbon presentation in a bit. We'll come on to talking about some of that. But I would imagine that they will keep a very careful and watchful eye on what happens with traffic levels in public transport, but more widely with HGVs and vans, etc., and may revisit this issue if it's required at some future stage.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Thanks for that, Andrew. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the operators update. I see Pete has gone off, so I'll have to take. Raja, do you want to take the first?
Okay. I'll give you what I've got from. I mean, we were just talking about there, and I can see a chart here, but I'm going to be honest and say the chart doesn't really give me any actual statistics other than 59% for Bradford in quarter one. From quarter 4, 56, quarter 3, 43, but without any more details on it, I'm not quite sure what that means. And that we're just talking about the emissions that we were just talking about. So apologies that I don't seem to have a bit more information on what those figures actually represent. There wasn't many bus service changes in Bradford that were a problem for us for this year. Just to highlight the COVID measures that we've put in place, like other operators, in terms of, I'm just talking about the capacity issues of where we get the capacity, the sashes around seats, the bus displaying full when the bus is full. Also that our vehicles are what we call zoonoed every 28 days and cleaned on a regular basis, just to keep the spread of virus down there. Obviously that's working with for our drivers, that's working with the customers, etc., by keeping everything as best we can there to keep the cleanliness of the buses to stop the spread of the disease. Since we last met, we've emphasised on some focusing on becoming a leader in the transition to low carbon, so future. What we have done is we've committed as a company, so not just Bradford, but as first in up and down the country, to operate in a zero emissions bus fleet by 2035. And we don't plan to purchase any new diesel buses after December 2022. So that's one commitment that we've given there. We've had some partnership discussions through WYCA. The proposed to introduce an enhanced partnership. This would add a number of layers of control. I'm just reading from this now, because so at this point it's wise for us to simply acknowledge discussions at the moment. So, and that we're always going to work with the alliance as we always do, and to look to identify the recovery actions in strong collaboration with our partners. We had some discussions over the Bradford Shipley corridor. There were proposals that were coming through. What we were looking at there, we first spoke with Councillor Alex Rosshaw. The objective was to push traffic into Canal Road and then look at making more of a reliable bus service on Manningham Lane. Obviously, what we asked for is that we needed some evidence on modelling bus journeys, ability to transfer traffic volumes, and the staging of the works. Obviously, that will come back. Yes, we just spoke about some of the problems that we'd seen with cycle lanes in Bradford. Some of them did come up pretty quickly, and Taj and I are probably smiling because I know Taj got a few comments from some drivers at work. But some of those issues that were highlighted, especially for us on all links, have certainly been addressed from there, where we've had a bus stop moved and so on and so forth. We are seeing a little bit of extra punctuality problems, which one other person spoke about on here, going up Wakefield Road. So that is certainly having an impact, but that's something that we'll continue to monitor and look at, and then deal with either through extra time for their services and so on and so on. But it's a bit early days yet to debate how we go forward with that until we've got a lot more information. There's just a note on here, something just to mention that we are keen as a company with Bradford Council and WYCA themselves to push for the 2025 Capital of Culture bid. We know that they've been delayed, but obviously as a company trying to do that in Bradford, we're always open to coming and having discussions of where we can to help and or assist or look at promoting Bradford in a better light. A couple of things on services that are coming up. Certainly, I've been arguing a little bit at the moment with National Power Grid. Or I'm not sure if many of you are aware, but over the last year or so, first National Power Grid and other partners have been discussing the new pipe work for Bradford Road. And from the other one going towards Ingleby Road. We've worked pretty well up to press, but just suddenly we seem to be getting some roadworks that are coming up because whatever they've looked at under the ground is not done there. One of the other things we've really gone to town with National Power Grid is that a closure in Willesden, which is going to cause no bus services to run in Willesden for the next 5 weeks, starting from next week. We only got to know about it on the 6th of October. We weren't invited to a meeting, and we've had to then working with WYCA, putting in an emergency bus that's running from the Link Bob and into Bingley, and then Bingley back to the Link Bob. But our 616 services and 619 services will not be able to operate, and will have to go what we say the same as our 615, which is basically from Sandy Lane, Cottingley, down into Bingley, then to normal route. So there is going to be some disruption to passengers there. I know that the Keighley and District service, and I can't recall the number of it, will be running as normal, as that one's not affected. So I am expecting a few customer complaints there, or councillors to be in touch with us. But certainly this is not from a bus company point of view, because we were told with very short notice, and that includes WYCA as well. So we only got to know about it on the 6th of October. That is an ongoing programme. I am concerned that whatever work they've done to identify measures going along Haworth Road towards Toller Lane, down to Queen's Road, towards Canal Road, my concern going forward with that is that we're going to come across snags as we go along, whereas before, from 6, 8, 10 months ago, we were being promised we've got no problems, and yet we've just come across this one, and we're not even a mile away from where it first started. So that is a concern for us. I think that's all I've got to say for this particular meeting. Hi, Taj.
Thank you for that, Raja. Thank you. Are there any questions to Raja? No? Thank you. Dwayne is off the video at the moment, but I've got Alan.
Hello. This is David, my service delivery manager. As you're probably all aware, Phil Jolly has left us now and gone to work for WYCA. So moving forward, David will probably be stepping in on these meetings as well with me. Much what Raja said is exactly the same as what we're doing. We fog our vehicles every night, which is a antibacterial spray goes into the vehicle, and they're cleaned every morning when they go on the road. We've got hand sanitizers on every vehicle for the customers, and everything seems to be working with the cleaning. We have extra cleaning on the bus stations during the day. Passenger wise, we're probably up at around 60%. Service wise, we've got no staff now on furlough, driving staff. All our services are operating as normal, apart from some late services. The airline services, we've got extra journeys in at peak times, which is every 20 minutes. They now run as double deck vehicles. So there is extra room on there between Keighley and Greengates. As Andrew said, the Greengates lights they are causing a problem, but that'll be helpful in the future. Round about Keighley, the Hardings bypass is now opened, and all the lights are working at the end of Hardings bypass, and the dual carriageway on both ways seems to be working okay. The K17 has gone back to normal running. As Raja says, the Willesden, the only part that will affect us are school vehicles. Obviously, from Haworth roadside going through to Parkside, that will affect us quite bad. But service vehicles there, everything's fine on there. Do you want to add anything? Just the electric shuttle, really.
We've had an electric shuttle in one of our other locations, sorry, an electric vehicle. That's coming back to us later on in the year, and that will be trialled on the shuttle service between Keighley and Bradford. So all being well, if that proves fruitful, then in the future we could be going all electric there.
Okay.
And
sorry.
That's virtually it from us.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks. And I welcome your colleague onto this committee. Yeah. Any questions to Alan?
Yeah.
John, go on.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's a question. Can I first of all ask the meeting the minute our thanks to Phil Jolly for his services to the committee when he's gone when he's been able to attend. He's been very good, and also he's been very helpful in the bus station in Keighley bus station to anybody who wants to ask any queries. The other point I wanted to make, it's gone now. It's completely gone. Well, yeah, the point I wanted to make is that I'd like to pass our congratulations on to the not pass them, but I'd like to pass my congratulations on to the staff of the bus driving staff of the Keighley district for their courteous that they've shown to everybody especially over the last 6 months. They've gone out of their way to help passengers when they've gone on the bus and get off the bus. And yeah, because of the COVID thing, there's been a restriction on the number of people which can get on. And they've been very, as far as I can see, when I've sat at the front of the bus, as I've had to, towards the front of the bus, they've been very, if the bus has been full, they've been very courteous on way they've told people when that they can't get on, even if some of the people have passed sarcastic comments about not being able to get on. The bus staff have been very courteous, and I'd like to pass on my thanks for them.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, John. I've always told you, John, you know, I mean, bus workers are always good people. And
I'm talking about Keighley district, not Bradford, not first Bradford.
Any,
You know my views.
thanks for that, John. Anybody else?
There was something I wanted to mention, and it's the general thing, really.
John, you were doing really well. You were doing really well. Let's not
Yeah,
spoil it now. You were doing
Chair,
really well.
there was something I noticed on one of the buses in Keighley that there was an advert supporting Bradford Bulls. Now I've got no objection to it, but some of the people living in Keighley, if anything mentioned about Bradford, they're completely against it.
Oh.
But
you under the banner of Bradford, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Thank you. Dwayne?
Hello, Tash. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I've no video, but I am here. Hi everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Dwayne Wells. I'm head of commercial at Arriva Yorkshire. Our operator update. Well, what can I say? It's been a very busy few months. We've had many successive timetable changes, as previous two operators have as well, and we've settled back down now to our usual service levels. Patronage, consistent picture really. It's returning to around about 60% of pre-pandemic levels. We've seen quite a drop off in peak time demand, especially, particularly into and out of Bradford city centre. I think the traditional commute just isn't the same at the moment. Obviously, with office workers being encouraged to work from home, but demand is back to normal levels in some cases, and particularly around school flows. And so, with that in mind, we're and with the reduced capacity for social distancing, we've got extra journeys there to support the busiest flows. And for the Bradford district, that's our services 268, 283, and 425, 427 that have all got extra journeys added to those timetables. Similar to the first and transit updates in many respects, so I won't cover the ground that the previous two operators have. I suppose one final thing from us, as part of the West Yorkshire Bus Alliance, we're partway through a programme of retrofitting the exhausts of our buses entering Bradford to a Euro 6 emission standard, and that's been made possible by the Combined Authority's successful grant bids to the Clean Bus Technology Fund. And that's the update for Arriva Yorkshire. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that, Dwayne. Any questions to Dwayne? No?
No.
Right. Thanks for that. Pete?
Hello. Okay. It's been a funny old year, hasn't it? We've introduced our 6th timetable iteration very recently, and that now is operating and producing good performance figures throughout. Passenger numbers, however, are lower than we would expect at this time of year, and as with Dwayne and the bus operators, it is the peak that is missing. So we're seeing a fair leisure flow or retail flow into Bradford and to Leeds, but the traditional peak just isn't there. And currently we're sitting between 30 and 40% of our pre-COVID figures, depending which route we're on and where people are traveling to. We did see the schools come back earlier in September, and special thanks here to West Yorkshire Combined Authority for their help, because the schools came back conveniently 1 week before our timetable changed to cope, and subsequently they helped us with some standby buses that really made a difference, especially on the Wharfdale line out of Guiseley, where capacity was constrained. Thankfully, now we're back to a full timetable on all those lines, and we're coping well with numbers travelling. Masks, as you know, are compulsory on public transport, and we're seeing compliance improving. It got a lot better once it became compulsory in retail, it must be said, but well over 90% without any real science behind those figures. Certainly better during the day than on an evening, but generally good. We are British Transport Police helping with the policing of this, as are our own travel safe officers who are travelling on trains where we know we have an issue. Local lockdowns happen, and we work with to the instructions given in those lockdowns, and will continue to do so. So far in West Yorkshire, it's no different to how it was before. And lastly, we introduced a flexible season ticket earlier in the year, and this is an important product because this is going to make a real difference when we do get back to normal, whatever normal is, because this enables people who don't work every day to take the advantage of a season ticket discount, rather like a Carnet product sold on the mobile phone or in West Yorkshire on the smart card. And it's in operation now almost throughout West Yorkshire and proving popular, as popular as it can be in these days when so many people aren't working in offices. But it will be a good product, an important product when people are traveling once again, but albeit maybe not every day of the week. That really is it for us. Again, happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thanks for that, Pete. Anybody, any question to Pete? Graham?
That's it. That's what all these posts that have been put up in the various station entrances is to facilitate. Is it to facilitate flexible ticketing?
It is indeed. They're validators to be used rather like use the Oyster card in London. However, they don't need to be purchased on smart card. They can also be purchased on smartphones, and more people. And we're expecting that's where it will go. And so they will be a West Yorkshire thing, I think. Those validators.
So the posts read a phone image to validate what journey is being taken.
They read, our conductors can, and the post will as well. But the post will also read the smart cards.
Right. It's progress after all these months and years about the use of cards and flexibility.
It is indeed, and it were and no more important time than the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Anybody else to Pete? No?
No.
Well, thank you to all of you, Raja, Alan, Dwayne, and Pete. Thanks for those updates. If there is anything that anybody wish to actually ask any of the operators, you can either directly email them or email us, and we will actually be able to get you the information or the answer that you're looking for. Okay, thanks for that. Andrew, workshop.
Yes, bear with me. I'm going to try and get this up on the screen. Presentation. Here we go. Right. Tell me if you can see that or when you can see that.
Yeah, we can see that.
I can see it.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Right, so I'm going to take you through this presentation. Hopefully I won't spend too long on it, but if there are any bits that you want me to go back over, then please do let me know. So this is around, the presentation is about the West Yorkshire carbon emission reduction pathways that we have embarked upon. So is this going to move on? Let me see. Can I move to the next screen? There we are. Hurrah. Has that moved?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Good. We're cooking on gas. So I'm not sure that's probably the best statement to use under this. It's more we're moving on wind power or something like that. But anyway, so why have we commissioned the study? So the purpose of this study is to define what we will and won't do with regard to the various tasks. As it says there, it doesn't answer the where, but it does answer the why, when, and how, and what we'll do to attempt to meet a target of net zero carbon by 2038. So to take you back a little bit, the Combined Authority, along with its partner council, has declared a climate emergency back in July 2019. And the Combined Authority took the opportunity to strengthen its emission reduction ambition at the same time. And we're now aiming to be zero carbon by 2038 and to have made significant progress towards this by 2030. So the carbon emission reduction pathways study was commissioned to enable an understanding to be formed of what, when and why and how West Yorkshire could reach this ambition. Study doesn't go as far as answering the where, in terms of the policies, the actions, or the different measures should be implemented in West Yorkshire. And as we've seen from the last week on the clean air zone discussion in Leeds, that's one of the things that is slightly up in the air at the moment. But this is being considered as one of the key areas in which the zero emissions infrastructure framework set out in the West Yorkshire devolution deal could address. And if anybody needed any reminding, we will be having a mayor from next May. So the study, as you can see there, is broken down into 3 tasks. The results that have been published to date reflect the outcomes of task 1. And this first task is the development of the 3 pathways that demonstrate the different ways in which net zero carbon by 2038 could be achieved. And I'll come back to that in a minute. The second task is the development of an implementation roadmap, setting out the timescales when deployment of measures identified in the pathways should occur, and also set out the timescales for taking key decisions that allow deployment to occur. And it answers the when question. And then the third one and final task, which the focus group is centered on, is the development of policies and actions which enable the measures identified in the pathways to be implemented. So that answers the what question. Endorsement will be sought from the combined authority for the outputs of task 2 and 3 in February of next year, followed by a period of public consultation to gauge appetite and prioritise immediate activity. Moving on to the next slide. So there are several key messages that come out of task 1. The good news is that we could meet our target. Hooray! 73 to 82% of emission savings identified are in this study. A range is provided as these are the different outputs from each of the 3 pathways. So one achieves more in terms of emission savings, and the other 2 will achieve less. The remaining emissions will be delivered through a combination of increasing our ambition on certain measures, e.g. tree planting, for instance, or higher levels of remote working, which is obviously something we've seen come to pass as a result of COVID, whether we liked it or not. Or supporting deployment of innovative technologies like direct air capture, although I think some of these things are more an ambition than something that we would necessarily see coming forward in the very near future. In terms of the deployment levels across all 3 of the pathways that have been modelled, which allow West Yorkshire to start on a pathway towards net zero, and that's, for example, 675,000 homes need to be retrofitted to an EPC C rating or better, regardless of the pathway. So there are some pretty hefty things we need to do, whichever option we take, if we're going to achieve our target here. We need government to fully support this to enable us to achieve what we're looking at. So we need ambitious policy and leadership at both the regional and the local level and the national level as well. There are key challenges here that need to be overcome if we're to deliver our ambition. Whilst not all of these are known at this time, we do know that mobilising our supply chain, providing the skills and training, and strengthening our infrastructure are all challenges that we will need to overcome. And finally, on this slide, it's not the role of one organisation to deliver this ambition. It requires input of all parts of West Yorkshire if we are to meet with our aims and ambitions. So on to the next slide. This slide is basically showing you where the emissions come from in West Yorkshire currently. And what you can see from there, if you look at the 2 columns on the left-hand side of the screen, is that far and away the greatest levels of emissions come from transport on the far left and buildings second to the left. And if we then dissect slightly that transport block, you can see on the key that 4.4 of the 4.9 tons of carbon come from road transport. So in terms of non-road transport, aviation is the biggest contributor. And buildings emissions are roughly split 2/3 to domestic, that's the bottom section, with 1/3 non-domestic. And this sector covers flats, houses, offices, and commercial premises. So the majority of emissions in the building sector come from the combustion of fossil fuels, mainly natural gas for heating purposes. That's why I shouldn't have said we're cooking on gas. In terms of industry emissions, they reflect the lack of heavy industrial facilities in West Yorkshire. We're not in Teesside or Humber with lots of chemicals and refining industries, for instance. And in terms of land use and agriculture emissions, these are relatively small, and that can be attributed to the relatively small amount of land given over to this purpose in our region. Waste has been modelled at a high level for completeness and reflects emissions from landfill and wastewater treatment. Moving on to our next slide then. I'm just going to talk now about the pathways. So how the 4 pathways have been modelled. So I talked about 3 pathways before. It's 4 pathways because pathway number 1 is the baseline. That's where we are currently, what we would do if we just carried on as a sort of business as usual with no particular change of policy. Maximum ambition. So that's the best. The purpose of this pathway is to illustrate how quickly the region could technically reduce emissions. And the key is to decarbonise in this pathway is the significant electrification of heat, transport and industry, supported by enabling technologies such as demand side response and energy storage. Pathway 3 is a high hydrogen pathway. So if we went forward with large scale hydrogen and carbon capture and storage rollout, which can lead to decarbonisation, it involves repurposing the gas network, enabling hydrogen to be used for heat, industry, power and transport. And bear in mind that in the vehicles transport sector, we really don't have, I'm not sure we have anything operating using hydrogen, but we certainly don't on public transport. And in terms of buses, the first hydrogen buses have just been rolled out. I think, Taj, correct me if I've got this wrong, but I think it's in Aberdeen just recently. So this is very much in its infancy, but is 2038 achievable? Quite possibly. And the 4th pathway is a balanced mix of technologies. So if you utilize that approach to lead decarbonisation of the region, it would involve hydrogen, electrification, bioenergy, and a decentralized energy production. So that's enabling people to put solar on their roofs and capturing and perhaps even on car parks and things like that. So capturing energy from a variety of sources. So where do the pathways get us? So this is I won't dwell too long on this table, but on this graph rather, but it shows you where it gets us. If we stick with our current policies, that's the top line, the black line that's across the top there. But if we went for the max ambition, that's the green line there that could see us getting down as low as 2 tons of carbon dioxide per year. So in all of the pathways, the decarbonisation of the national electricity grid contributes to emissions savings in the transport sector as vehicles are increasingly becoming electrified. And that points to what Raja was saying about first stopping in their purchase of diesel buses. I think you said, was it 2022?
Yep, that's correct, from December 2022.
So, you know, when you think about it, this is not a million miles away. We are actually really, really close to moving forward with some of this stuff. And we've got to. And one of the things that's quite interesting in the vehicle industry is actually, as you know, in terms of what's portrayed to the public, what you see out there in terms of the vehicles at the moment they're on the street, What's going on behind the scenes is quite incredible in terms of the development of new vehicles of all manner of different technologies. Some segments are moving faster than others. So the minibus sector, for instance, is moving very slowly indeed. But in the big bus sector, there's some quite exciting developments going on. So moving on to the next table here, what does this mean for transport? This gives you an indication of the differences between the different pathways specifically for the transport sector. In both 2030 and 2038 on either side of your screen there are significant emissions remaining across all transport sectors. To reach net zero in West Yorkshire by 2038, these would have to be offset by negative emissions in other sectors or more speculative technologies that we might implement. So we've got quite a task on our hands. Cars, vans and heavy good vehicles still contribute a high share of emissions, but with widespread decarbonisation of road transport, aviation contributes an increasing share of the whole. And you can see that coming through there in the light blue colour on the bars there. So the balanced and high hydrogen pathways achieve almost the same emissions reduction trajectory, primarily due to employing the same behaviour change trajectories and closing of the gap in emissions differences between hydrogen fuel cell and battery electric vehicles, decarbonising of hydrogen production and of the national electricity grid. So moving forward, how do we get there? So we talked about remote working. I think it's worth pointing out that in terms of the combined authority, partially because of a refurbishment of the office, but actually just because of the ongoing COVID situation, 90% plus of staff who are office based are working at home at the moment and have done for a considerable period. We're not unique in this regard. Businesses across our region and across the country have got an increased number of people who are working from home. And one of the debates that is going on now, both in terms of our own organisation, the Combined Authority, and in terms of businesses and public sector organisations up and down the country, is whether we will ever go back to where we were before. And my sense at the moment is probably we won't, because we've worked out how to do it differently. That doesn't mean that people won't ever be in the office. I think there will be a balance to be struck, but I think more people will be working from home for some of the time. And that obviously has some interesting implications for the transport network, bus, rail, but also the highways network as well. 12 to 15% potentially reduction in passenger demand for travel can be achieved through home working, teleconferencing, and to a lesser degree, locating housing in closer proximity to workplaces and amenities. So we might be getting to this one faster than that. So that 12 to 15% that we were projecting may be modest, and we might get there. We might achieve an even greater amount. Active travel, well, we've talked about that, and we're doing an awful lot on that at the moment. Cycling and walking, zero emission transport, if you like, are key to this. More trips of 2 kilometres or less will need to be undertaken by walking, and more trips of 2 to 10 kilometres will need to be undertaken by cycling. Walking to increase by 78% from 528 million passengers per kilometre pre-COVID-19, and cycling to increase by over 2,000% from 119 million passenger kilometres per pre-COVID-19. So we're already making some strides towards that, but there's more to be done. Public transport, here's just 2 examples. But basically it's showing you electrification across the piece on both bus and rail. As private car use decreases, hopefully, demand for travel will need to be picked up by public transport, and that's principally buses and trains. Travel by bus will need to increase by 39%. 39%, and to think that the West Yorkshire bus strategy was targeting 25%, I think, increased by a quarter patronage wise. And actually bear in mind that during COVID we've gone backwards. So there's an awful lot of work to get there. And train by travel will need to increase by 53%. Now, I don't know what the impact as COVID has been on the rail industry, but I imagine it's probably as significant, if not more significant, on certain routes than it has been on the bus. So again, a big challenge in this area. Battery electric and to a lesser extent hydrogen fuel cells will be dominant in the bus fleet, and electric trains will dominate the train lines of West Yorkshire. So we're not there yet, but hopefully we will be. And nearly finally, how do we get there? A mixture of fuels. So the way we power the vehicles that we travel in and the way that goods are transported will also need to change. To enable a transition to cleaner fuel sales of petrol and diesel cars, they will need to end by 2035 at the latest, and 2030 in the maximum ambition pathway. So first ahead of the game on their bus fleets, massively aiming at 2022. But you know, we think that 2030 on the max ambition pathway is required. In line with ending sales of conventionally fueled vehicles, sales of zero emission cars will need to reach between 40,000 and 50,000 sales per year by 2038. And for context, less than 7,000 zero emission cars were sold in 2018 across the whole of the West Yorkshire region. So again, we've got some way to go. HGV lorry sales need to reach between 1,000 and 2,000 sales per year by 2038. And the future fuel mix in the region will be dominated by battery electric and hydrogen fuel cells. Plug-in hybrids and hybrids will remain, albeit a small part of the vehicle fleet. And then finally, biomethane is an important transition fuel for the HGV sector, acting as a transition fuel prior to hydrogen or electricity infrastructure becoming ready. So I'll stop there. But if anybody has any comments, feedback, questions, I will attempt to answer, or at least I can farm them on to colleagues who will be able to come back to you. But if anyone wants to look at any of that again or has any questions, then happy to try to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Andrew. That's the aspiration for the future. Any questions, anybody? James?
Hi, thanks for that, Andrew. Have you thought about the potential of cargo bikes, you know, small business owners, sole traders, that kind of thing?
I think you make a very valid point there. I mean, prior to my starting at West Yorkshire Combined Authority, some of you may know I worked at City of York Council, and in York, cargo bikes are actually absolutely crucial for the foot streets deliveries that we have in this city, or had, you know, I live here still. And I think that certainly their application in city centre areas or town centre areas is key, absolutely key to making sure that you can successfully deliver to independent traders and smaller shops within a central area. And I think the other thing that's worthy of consideration alongside the cargo bikes is the sort of delivery of a hub where actually larger vehicles and lorries can actually deliver to. So you've got a central hub and cargo bikes can go from there. So that you've got a sort of hub and spoke and last mile delivery process in place. I think that's, you know, actually cargo bikes have a role, but probably they have a role as part of a bigger delivery strategy for the various parts of West Yorkshire rather than just in isolation. Not that we should be discouraging, you know, self-starter and small-scale cargo bike companies. I think that is, you know, where the future is and is very valid, and actually it's a key point of employment for many people as well.
Okay, yeah, go on, James. You're on mute.
Yeah. I'm sorry, just one more question. You mentioned electric trains. Can you be a bit more specific with that, the timetables and so on?
Oh, Pete, is Pete still on the call?
He is. He is.
Pete,
well,
electric trains. When are they coming?
Well, there's no timeline for it yet. As with our bus colleagues, the manufacturers are unlikely to be producing diesel trains much longer into the future. So they will have to be replaced by something, but it needs a huge infrastructure investment, which is not yet budgeted. So there are lots of things happening in the sidelines. We're looking at hydrogen trains, which are certainly a possibility. You do need to be close to a reliable source of hydrogen to make that work, though. And so, and they don't run as far, so you need a contained network, which of course West Yorkshire is. But unfortunately, we haven't got a timeline on it as things are at the moment.
Okay. Anybody else? I can't see everybody, so.
Shall I stop sharing? If I stop sharing, you might be able to.
Yeah, I think then.
There we are.
Yeah. Okay. And Andy.
I was just wondering where the plans rely on members of the public, sort of with modal shift or whatever, leaving the car behind and taking to the bike or whatever. How do you think it's practical? Do we think we will persuade people into change in sufficient numbers?
That's a really challenging one, because having been in the nudge environment for some time, where you're working to try and persuade people to adopt different practices, whether that's use the bus, use the train, use bike, etc. It is hard, and you're eking out small percentages generally when you're doing that. So on the one hand, I'd say it's a real challenge, unless, and that was the point in the presentation about, we need support nationally and regionally in terms of policy and guidelines, etc., for what people should be doing. So there's a bit of carrot and a bit of stick. That said, what we've experienced with COVID has sort of changed my view and most people's views on what can happen when it has to happen. I would not have said a year ago that I could work from home successfully 5 days a week. I wouldn't have believed it. And yet the technology has come on. I wouldn't have believed that we could reasonably have had this call on, this meeting online, and actually however many of us there are, 15 people of all walks of life could have come together to have this meeting. So I think maybe we need to be if COVID has taught us anything, we shouldn't be scared to be ambitious.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? If nobody, thank you very much for that, Andrew. Thanks for that. Right, okay, that brings me to the end of the meeting. I'd just like, sorry, Andy.
Sorry, can I just ask one more question? Now we've got track and trace and so on, do we have any idea at all of any of infections that people have acquired of COVID that are attributed to public transport? Do we know if it's low, which could be reassuring, or if it's high, in which case do we have more work to do?
Well, Andy, I mean, to be honest with you, we don't get any information like that. The council may, I mean, we only got one set of information back from the central government site department, and they've told us that don't wait for, any more information in the very near future. You may not get much of it. However, I haven't heard anything or seen anything regarding public transport. So everybody that's traveling on the public transport actually are wearing a mask. There's a rigid cleaning, routine, and there hasn't been any concerns raised, whether from the the local authority point of view, or from even the operator's point of view, I haven't heard anything, or even West Yorkshire Combined Authority sort of domain. So there is nothing that actually suggests that there are people staying away from the public transport. It doesn't help when the Prime Minister says don't use public transport. It does not help, because it just doesn't give people confidence then. But I think, you know, to be fair to all the operators, they have done everything in their power to give people confidence back with the social distancing, with the cleaning, and a lot of the companies have actually done the zone 71 fogging off the buses, which stays on the surface for about 28 to 30 days. So that also is being highlighted. So I couldn't tell you at this moment of time, you know, where people would get that information from. I'm not really sure. Andrew, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, Andy, it's a perfectly reasonable question, and I concur with what Taj is saying. I think I was on a call which of the Urban Transport Group. That's the major cities across the country. Me and peers from other parts of the country, and the DFT's chief scientific advisor was on that call, and he said something interesting, which was that there is no evidence that public transport is worse than anything else in terms of catching COVID-19. He did, however, give us a big dose of, but just because there is no evidence does not mean that that is not the case. So, you know, I think like with so many other things around COVID at the moment, the jury is just a bit out at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nobody else? Okay, so, sorry, Richard.
I think Richard's on mute. It might be helping me out here. I don't know if you can hear me, Taj, but I wondered if I could ask you a question, or ask the committee a question rather.
Go on.
So I've just kind of hijacked the meeting. Richard's asked me to come in and speak to you because of some of the work that we do. So we're a partnership between the council and the 3 colleges and the university in Bradford. And our portfolio holder is Councillor Imran Khan, who you might be aware of, Taj. But basically what we're trying to do, in effect, is connect our businesses with the education landscape. So part of my reasons for hijacking this meeting, and I do apologise, was just to kind of tell you a little bit about what we do, the fact that we're already working quite closely with Richard and his team at Northern. Network Rail is also doing some work with us, but also an ask for everybody else here that might be able to support us with our sort of transport agenda. So what we're trying to do is work with young people across the district in schools, colleges and the university to give them an idea of the kinds of careers that are available to them and the pathways to get into them. And we do that by having representation on 9 different sector boards. So there is a sector board for transport distribution and logistics, which we're just trying to launch, which is the reason I'm here. We have business, we have health and social care, creative industries, advanced manufacturing engineering, built environment, and another one which just escaped my head now. But basically each board is made up of 6 different employers, representation from the colleges and the university, senior member within the council, and the aim of the game is to kind of support those conversations around, is the curriculum relevant and up to date for people seeking careers in those areas? Do the teachers have the right industry level experience? And if so, can our businesses support with that? And also, is our information up to date and accurate in terms of recruitment and the sort of recruitment pipeline that there is for young people across Bradford into those sorts of careers? So part of it is around changing curriculum, part of it is around providing those engagement and enrichment opportunities. So I'm not going to waffle on too much. Richard's doing some fantastic work with us, and we've just kind of forced him to join our new board. But we're still looking for sort of some more employers from around the district in the transport industry. Definitely want to target buses if we can. So that would be fantastic as well. And it's really kind of supporting our work around that engagement piece with schools across the education landscape, but also we're aware that there are, you know, quotas that each organisation in its own right would have, be it around equality, diversity and inclusion, be it around just sort of including more young people into their workforce. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. I'm happy to leave my information with somebody if it goes out in the minutes. If you're interested and you want to have a chat separately online, I would be absolutely delighted for any support.
Thank you for that, Nabila. That's very interesting and I think very vital work. I'm sure Dwayne, Alan and Raja will jump at that opportunity to actually, you know what I mean, come onto your board. But on a serious note, I think they, you know, if you can actually leave your details and either with Jeanette or Andrew, and we will actually circulate that with in the minutes. And it is actually very crucial that people actually do get opportunities, and transport is one of the areas where there is shortage of people. So Pete is here, Raj is here, Dwayne and Alan. I'm sure they will actually pass it on to the relevant people in their workplaces, and you know, maybe that you will hit some good areas in that. But thank you for coming on, Richard. I'm sorry we can't hear you, but thanks for that. Unless you wanna, can you? Are you still on mute? Still can't hear you.
I'm unmuted now.
Oh yeah, that's
it. Better. That's much better, thank you. I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the young people in Bradford who took part in a Dragon's Den challenge with the rail industry. Fantastic piece of work by young people from the Bradford district during the height of the pandemic. And you can see the results of their work on 3 Bradford stations, Saltaire, Bradford Interchange and Shipley. There's a big mural that says "Welcome to Bradford" that celebrates all the great things about Bradford, its culture and its people. And that's really what we're trying to do with young people in Bradford. We, as all the transport operators are, we do have an ageing workforce, and we do need to take advantage of some of this young talent that's in the region, and particularly in Bradford district, reaching out particularly to the BAME community and getting more people interested in our industry as a career opportunity. So Nabila and her team will be doing that, and Northern are really pleased that we're supporting them.
Thank you for that, Richard, and
thank you.
Everything that you guys are doing. I mean, I'm sure, you know what I mean, we will love to actually hear more and see if we can support in any way, shape or form.
Sounds gone.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Nabila, thanks for that, love. I can't see anybody else putting their hand up or anything. Okay, right, thanks for that. Stay safe. Thank you for your afternoon. Thanks for your time. Any questions, any information, if you want to just pass it on to us, and we will include it in the minutes. But thank you once again. Lovely meeting, very informative, very constructive. Thank you for helping me out too. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.